Welcome to Studio Shrinkage. Studio Shrinkage, Studio Shrinkage, Studio Shrinkage.
I think we're live.
Well, as usual, nothing goes smoothly. And I think it's particularly interesting that it's not going smoothly on a day that we're going to describe how we do this. Because everything we did just changed everything you do.
Yep.
So,
Well, not everything, but a big
lot.
chunk of it, you're right.
Oh my God. You're going to have we're going to go cover my stuff, and then we're going to go, and then you're going to be done in 1 minute. 1 minute. It's going to take you 1 minute.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, here we are. Studio Shrinkage's podcast, where you learn absolutely nothing about anything. That's what you do. You come here to learn nothing. No,
Learn a little bit.
I hope a little bit, yeah. Myself included, of course. But we spend our time screwing around with this technology to try to do podcasts and music and anything else creative in a small space. That's the goal of Studio Shrinkage. So welcome. Click, everyone click. Click on YouTube things. Click on everything. Join everything we have. And I'm done with the
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Okay. So today, well, first we're going to cover news like always. I have no lights on in the studio. None. I'm not sure I should even ever use lights again. What the heck? So let's start with the news. Do you have a lot of news?
I have a couple pieces, but I'm afraid you're going to be on all over two of these. So
maybe.
Whatever. I have one that I know you're not going to have, so I'll save that one for last just in case. But first up is SSL just dropped a whole bunch of new 500 series modules, which is pretty cool because it makes it affordable for little guys like myself. They start off around 335 pounds or euros. I don't know, is that euros? I'm on a British website, but I don't know what that translates to in American dollars. But the EQ is running about 999 pounds.
These are 500 series I/O modules?
Modules, yeah. So you can build your own little assortment of SSL
So what I
stuff.
did, yeah. I saw one had multiple inputs, right? 4 or something?
6 channels.
6 channels. That one, how much is that one? That's the one I did. Do I have that one?
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different modules. One's called Ultraviolet EQ. One's called the 6 console is part of the 6 channel. The whole idea behind the Ultraviolet EQ, it comes from the much coveted SSL Fusion.
Oh.
They look pretty similar to what you'd expect out of an SSL. The knobs.
Actually, I can show you that
and
physically.
Bus compressor. Yeah, I could have too, I guess. But it has the classic SSL look, but it's a newer series of stuff. I don't have any clips or any audio.
There's one.
Yeah, it looks very similar to that stuff, but it has a gray face. But the knobs are all classic, SSL from their consoles. But you got a bus compressor, channel strips, EQs, a whole assortment stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool because it lets people like myself and you build the SSL sound in our studio, sound in our studio without having a big console.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is my first news. You can go.
I don't know if you know this, about 10 years ago, Spectrasonics released a library of plugins for their pretty awesome synth called Omnisphere, and they were dedicated to the Moog library and they just released a new one. So it's called Bob Moog Tribute Library, It's $100. I just looked it up. Spectrasonics doesn't do anything badly. I don't think anyway. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but they're awfully good at what they do. So I'm actually pretty impressed with. So there's a bunch of sounds, a bunch of plugins, a bunch of templates, a bunch of or synth sounds that they basically you can add to Omnisphere if you have Omnisphere, and I'm sure it's terrific. I don't have the first one, and I never thought about adding anything to Omnisphere because Omnisphere is like gigundo. I mean, it's massive. It has so many things anyway, and that's what I need is to add more sounds to my my collection
Yeah,
of sounds.
I have the first one, and that is just
You do have
recreating all
it?
the yeah, the first one.
Really?
And it's I don't know, I want to say a couple hundred presets that are built off the Moog sound, and they're pull everything, so you're basically using samples from original hardware. They use real Moogs to get those sounds,
Yeah.
and they dial in a bunch of different patches for you. So it's a nice way to add. If $100 is not a lot to add, a bunch more Moog sounds. If you don't have a hardware Moog, it's a nice way to.
Yeah, but or software. I mean, let's be honest. There's 1,000. I mean, I have. If you have all of the
Arturia stuff.
Arturia stuff, you've got to. I mean, it's out of control. There's just so many. Anyway, the thing about Spectrasonics is the quality. I think they have an incredibly high quality product. So, so that was one. Do you know anything about the Nord Piano 5 released?
No, I didn't.
That's kind of a thing. People love Nords or they don't love Nords. And if you love Nords, this is a big deal. I think they sound great. But they just released a new piano, number 5. It's called 73 weighted, and it is an 88. And that is a cool piece of hardware, I think. Some people just swear by this thing. So if you're a real keyboard person and you're a person that wants something on stage and you like the Nord kind of a sound, it's an interesting thing and probably going to piss you off because Nord 4 probably is now useless, right? No, I'm just kidding.
They're not cheap. They're a little pricey, but they're absolutely worth it. They're built like tanks.
Yeah.
And they sound amazing.
Oh, they do.
Most stage players love the Nord stuff.
Yeah, phenomenal.
But
here's a new one. You ready for this? Moog has released something called the Sound Studio Kit.
That was my next piece. Yeah.
Oh, that looks so good.
Cool.
Sorry.
Little desktop unit, kind of like what you got going on with modules and stuff. And it's really fairly affordable, $1,400 and $1,500 for 2 different versions. Yeah, the Mother 32 set or the Subharmonicon. Yeah, those look really cool.
Isn't that cool?
I like that, yeah. That's something I'd consider getting in the studio.
Plus the way they set it up here, it's like totally...
Yeah.
Now I want to get one, of course. I can't, but I want to. Anyway, that's what that one is. So... I have no more sound ones. I have other ones, but go ahead. Do your next one.
A couple weeks ago, last couple podcasts ago, I started talking about bands and how they're doing things in COVID. So the Eagles this week released an album. It was their 2000, maybe 2000, in the year 2000, they were on tour. So they captured it live and never released it. So now they released this live concert, the Millennium Concert. So yeah, it was right around 2000. They're releasing a double vinyl album of this live concert, and that's kind of crazy because you think about it. 2021, we're talking about live concerts released on vinyl. I never thought we'd see that happen. We thought vinyl was dead, but very much
there's still a collector's group of people that they're.
My kids are collecting vinyl.
Yeah, it's wild. So very expensive though.
Yes, but they are going to start. The Eagles have started selling tickets for a new tour. Starting in August, they're going to be in the UK, and then September they're going to start touring around the United States.
Cool.
Fortunately, there's no Illinois stop. I'm not sure I'd go to see the Eagles. I like the Eagles, but I don't know if I'd go to a concert. Of the Eagles.
Right, I like Joe Walsh. I think he's funny.
They are, so they are going to start touring again.
Well, that's good. Assuming we can go see people. safely.
Yes.
Canon released a bunch of firmware updates that are kind of important. If you're a Canon person and you're into the R6 and R5, which are the new handheld mirrorless Canons that everyone is freaking out about, but had some serious overheating problems, they have done releases that in addition to, by the way, a Canon 1DX Mark III firmware update, which I love how they quote this. They say, improving users' experiences when they're doing video, which, to me is, there are some things here. It's like C-Log and utilizing raw lighting and stuff like that. But there's also things about, I don't know how much it affects the overheating issue that was originally, and maybe that's already been fixed. But let me see the bug list here. Fix phenomenon where camera doesn't function normally when using particular CFX Express cards. Canon cannot function when drive mode is set to high speed. These are not heat problems, though. But it looks like it's actually more about bit rates and stuff like that. So, certainly if you have those Canons, either one of them or all three, it's time to do an update. They also found a major bug in this is pretty funny. They released the R5, R6, and 1 firmware updates, and immediately released another one, at least for the R6, because there was a major video bug found for the R6 camera. So
that's not good.
Yeah, that's not good. So, 24 hours after releasing the 1.3 firmware update, they released 1.3.1. So if you did that update, please do another update because I think there's some video bug issues. And I believe that is the news, unless you have any more.
I don't. That's all I have.
Okay, so in approaching our main topic today, wherever you are, whenever you're listening, I think it's going to be very much a kind of shooting from the hip here because there's a lot that we do that makes this work, and there's a lot of other people that have done all this, and there's, by the way, a million ways to do this. In fact, I have built an entirely portable rig that does this in about a 1/16 of the space. It's just just one case in the bag, and you can do everything. So there's a million trillion ways to do this, and there's no wrong or right way to do it either, by the way. To create a podcast requires some basic things. First of all, you need an internet connection. If you're streaming, it requires you to have a streaming server, and you have to get there somehow, which means microphones and cameras and some kind of a mixer or some kind of an interface. All of those things are required. The more involved you get, the more, if you start doing camera switching, well, now you need a switch. If you start doing switching within the confines of whatever you're using to stream or to capture, then you need to be able to use software that does it, things like OBS and everything. So I think we should compartmentalize this and take it from very basic stuff and then move on to more complex stuff. And I would really appreciate if Will stopped me and said, "You dummy, you said something completely wrong." So we have a pretty sophisticated layout here because we can do, in my side of the studio, we have multiple cameras. We can share screens. We can share specific applications. And when I was saying share, not only am I sharing it with you, the viewer, but I'm also sharing it with Will, who can then see what I'm doing and therefore comment on what I'm doing and vice versa. And he can do the same with me. In addition to that, I can share an iPad screen. So here's an iPad screen, which means if I do stuff, I can actually capture that. If I have a screen that I want to share something with, or both, I can do that. And all of these things have been programmed. And I'm going to show a little bit about how that's done. There are some free tools which we have used which are fine, absolutely fine. And we're going to get to that when it comes to the switching part of this. So the more sophisticated you get, the more involved this is. But fundamentally, you need some way, some means of capturing this and if you're streaming, some means of streaming it. So you need a camera. You can use Skype. There's a lot of video conferencing software that you can use. You can do screen capturing. There's a million ways to do this. So I am not here to say this is the way you should do it. I'm here to tell you that this is the way we do it, and it's made it easier, let's say. Although Will will confirm that I have a tendency to build monstrosities that become a little unwieldy.
Yes.
I have a history of this. There's something wrong with me, clearly. But I think I have this layout set up in a way that it's semi-controllable. We do not stream live. We could. In fact, it would be incredibly easy to stream live for us, because all we'd have to do is just push a button. And we could stream Facebook, we could stream to YouTube, we could stream anywhere that anyone streams. Up till now, we haven't found a reason for that, for us to do that, but I can see very obviously why we would want to do it sometime down the road. But for us, it wouldn't be a big deal to change this. So let's start with the hardware. I basically right now I'm using a lapel mic. The mic situation is something that is ever evolving, and I think I've become quite fanatical about this, and I'm never going to be happy with this mic thing. I can clearly see this, right, Will? Never.
Yeah.
I will never
every
be happy
week.
with
Yeah.
it. Every week I have a different mic on. It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
This allows me some freedom, and of course, see, now I'm bugged by an earphone thing. So now I was looking. I looked at today. I looked at earphone/microphone things.
Oh, some people do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bear makes a pair with the DT770 with the mic in it.
I saw that. But there's a bazillion of them, and they're not cheap. And I'm thinking, really?
Yeah.
It depends on what you're going to do, right? I mean, what are you going to be doing while you're? If all you're doing is head stuff where you're just talking to each other, it completely doesn't matter. You're sitting there. But if you're moving around, which I'm about to do actually, if you're moving around, this becomes problematic. So if you have a mic that's in front of you, like Will does right now, if he leaves, the mic doesn't work that well anymore, right? So that's why I have a lapel mic on right now. But I'm limited by cable. Now I could use Bluetooth. Bluetooth, as it turns out, isn't the best sometimes. So there's a lot of ways to do mics. And how do you get it in? Well, audio interfaces. I happen to be using a ridiculous audio interface because right now I'm using my Wing mixing console as not only a preamp and a mic and a switcher and all that kind of stuff, but of course as an audio interface directly into what we're using to stream with. So I think that's really basically all there is. Mics, interface, some kind of software, right? And some way to monitor. So headphones. The reason we're using headphones is because if you put speakers on, you're going to get feedback. If you have live mics and you're in front of your speakers, it's going to be an issue. So that's why you always see people with headphones on. I know that's not like a really basic thing, but maybe it's something that should be mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So I have a camera here that I'm looking at. My cameras are older Canon XA10s, and they're all HD cameras, and they're old, but they have a very nice picture. And they were frankly in retirement. So they were kind of in the corner. I've got 4 of them, or 2 of one type and 2 of another, that are exactly the same. And so I started using them, and they're really terrific cameras. And Will's going to talk about all the stuff that he does down the road. We may have to do 1.5 parts or something in this thing. But anyway, and I have one that's facing me, and I have one that's a side. Let me switch to that. So that's my side view. And how am I doing this is a whole other ballgame, which I'll get to pretty soon. I also have another connection, which is now not connected to anything, so you're going to see nothing. And I can do 8. So those are my cameras. They're connected through HDMI to a switch, a video switch. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up my webcam. Okay. So This is my switch. Where is it? Right there. Okay. And there's an 8-channel Blackmagic switch. And I can, if I was to use just this, here's the problem. If I was to use that, I'd have to go over here and basically push this button every single time I wanted to switch between cameras, which is not a great move. I mean, it would be very painful. So what I did was I figured out a pretty crazy, sophisticated way to use a Stream Deck. And this is what a Stream Deck looks like. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it okay?
Yeah, I can't read it, but you can see it.
Yeah. So Stream Deck this is a Stream Deck XL, which gives you all these buttons. And if you look down here, if you see the buttons here, if I connect that button, you'll see in my lower left-hand corner there that I switched to the side camera. So I did some programming that allows me to switch between the front camera, the side camera, and any other camera that I have wired in here. Okay? And that is the way my cameras, my personal cameras in my studios work. Okay? They're only for my cameras. They do not control anything else. They do not control Will's stuff. They do not control what you're seeing. All they do is when I have a screen that's on me, or even a partial screen like this, and I push those buttons, it switches between cameras. And that's what it does. Okay. Do you need that? No, not necessarily. If you're just doing a talking head thing where you're talking to someone else, you will never need 2 cameras to do this. You might need 2 cameras if you're doing it in the same room. But remember, right now, Will is in Chicago and I'm in Florida. So we communicate over the web. And because we do that, he's not in the same room. He doesn't need a camera on him. He needs his own camera on him, which he is feeding to me. Okay. Wow. Exhausted. And that was just the camera part.
Almost halfway there. No.
Okay. Okay. So I'm hoping that this makes some kind of sense. I'm gonna cut all this extra stuff that I've got here, that, you know, wacky screens and stuff. That doesn't matter, but it does help me, but it doesn't really matter in terms of functionality. The audio stuff is done with this board, which this is stupid. I could have just switched to that. And so my mic goes into channel 1, okay, and is then fed as an audio interface directly into the software we're using to do streaming. And Will is doing something similar, okay? Okay, that's the audio, very simple. It's also using, I'm also using it as my monitoring, so I can hear what I'm saying, I can hear what Will says, so it gets feedback here. Okay, now for the piece that makes this all work. And I should start out by saying we started out using OBS, which is a free piece of video streaming / capture software, and it is amazing. There's 2 versions of it that I know about. So Streamlabs OBS and OBS. They're both unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible. There's a million plugins for them. They're 100% free, and they should be supported because it is the mainstay of many, many, many people that do this all the time. And it's now been so long. We ran into some issues with it, and it was very much because of our particular needs that we ran into these issues. I'm not sure that we couldn't have gotten around it using OBS, but it was easier after doing a bunch of research for us to use what we're using. And we're using something called Ecamm.
I don't think I've ever seen it running like on your end. Like, what is the operator of?
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show.
I'm just using a web browser plugin, but
yeah. Are you seeing it? Yeah, you are. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. We can't do this. Right here, down here, where on the bottom, where you see space, that's where all the Ecamm stuff is. We can't do this because it's hiding it from it.
Oh. That's
really intriguing. So what I have to isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So so this is what I'm going to do instead. I will do this. This is Ecamm. Okay, so I've got a whole series of windows here. Over on the left is a bandwidth statistics if you're doing streaming. These are our individual sound levels. I don't know if you can see them. right there. This is different sound effects, which you can add to the mix. This is our three. This is how we communicate. This is my screen. This is Will, as he's called in. And this is actually Will's desktop right here. So this is how I can add Will's desktop instead of him, because he is, when I send an invitation out using this software, which is, I shouldn't be showing that, should I? Well, nobody would know anyway. Anyway, it'll be too late by the time someone sees it. This is the link to how I get you into the system, or how I get Will in the system. The next one is camera effects for each individual person, right there in the middle, right here, this section. Let me see if I can highlight that, right there. And you can do green screen and all sorts of stuff with the brightness, change the colors, do zooming, all sorts of stuff. Next to that, we have different scenes. And these scenes are all of the different things that we do. There is just me, just Will, a Will with a desktop, a Will with an iPad, blah, blah, blah. How do I do that? Well, this is the pain also, because I have to push these buttons. I'm going to click here, and you can see it run, right? But if I'm here trying to control this, this is the incredibly awkward way to do it. So what I did instead was, let me get back to the camera, is you'll notice that the bottom 4 buttons were for my switching. Well, all of the stuff here, all this stuff has been programmed to do what I just showed you. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to push these buttons. You're going to lose this camera as soon as I do that. The first button is the two of us. The second button is just me. Third button is just Will. The next one is Will with his screen, actually, right? Mm-hmm. It is your screen.
It's
okay.
My second desktop
right.
screen, yeah.
And then there's my switch again, my portable camera, and here's my Safari window, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so by doing this, and I did this through some trickery, to be honest with you, using a program. So I'm using 2 pieces of software. The first piece of software is called Companion, and that's how I got this Stream Deck to talk to that switch so that I can control my cameras. That's how I got that to work, okay? The second piece of software, let me get this, is called Command Post. And this is what this looks like. There, okay. So, and what this does is, this little piece of software is pretty amazing. It's also free, by the way. It lets you use things like stream decks and tangents and even loop decks to control anything. It's like incredible. And so by using this, it allows me to add functionality to something like a Stream Deck. So let me see if I can get back to that. This is going to be quite the switch here, my friend. So by using this and this button, I can now control things that are just not built into Stream Deck at all. And so what I built into that section using this was, in fact, all the buttons that I use for controlling the video. So what's neat about this is it's like having basically a TV guy, a producer, in front doing all the switching, not only between the cameras, between what I'm doing, but also switching between functionality built into what's built into Ecamm. So each one of these things that I built, each one of these scenes are called scenes, are a preset, predetermined set of things. 1, what microphone's being used. 2, or microphones. 2, what camera or cameras are being used. 3, what desktop. And all of those things. And then, is there a green screen on it? Is there something behind the green screen? All that kind of stuff. So like when we open up the show, we do this, which is basically a pre-built scene. And all the stuff, you see the scrolling text and the background. The background is a piece of basically small video that was put together, and the text comes directly from Ecamm that I built. So every one of these things are built into Ecamm, all of them. But you have to create scenes that allow you to basically switch from one thing to another thing to another thing. Then the final piece of this puzzle is, how do you get it to somewhere? Well, there's a button there, and you hit record. And if you have Ecamm set up to record, it will record it to a predetermined place. And I have it recording the video that you're seeing here that's being captured, and individual audio tracks, which I showed you a little earlier. Each one of the audio tracks goes to something separate. My mics go to something, what's captured from my operating system as a channel. If I play a movie, it's a channel. If it's a sound effect, it's a channel. And then you will, you have a separate channel. All of these are being recorded as individual tracks. And the reason that works for me is later in post, I can take all that stuff and do something with it. Now, the way I do that, and this is the reason, this is the bottom line why I'm on a Mac, to be really blunt about it. Hey, I hate to say this, but it's just the only way that I found that it really works the way it does. And that is by using a tool called Loopback. So I'm going to switch to that, I think. Here's Loopback. This is why this is incredible. Loopback creates virtual sound cards. Okay? So, in this particular case, these are the three I'm using right now. And these three sound cards don't really exist in the real world. They take inputs from all sorts of sources, cameras, microphones, audio interfaces, and applications. And you can feed them to a virtual sound card. And the sound card name is what you name it up here. Okay, so in this particular case, this is my channels 1 through 3, so that I can plug in my mic into any of the 3 first channels on my wing board, which is the audio interface, and feed them to this channel. And then in Ecamm sees this as an audio interface. So that's how I'm getting my audio in. This is, what do I want to feed besides my mic into another audio interface? You can see it says Ecamm Finder Apps. Okay, so Finder Apps Finder is the desktop, the operating system, so anything that happens in the background will come out here. And things like Google Chrome and FL Studio and my iPad, which this is an interesting dilemma for those of you that might want to do this. My iPad, like right now, I can share my iPad screen because it's to Ecamm, it is another camera, but I can't share the audio from it. And the only way to share the audio from it is by audio MIDI settings and turning on the iPad as a sound source. But if I do that, guess what? You can't do the picture at the same time. So this is a dilemma. This is something someone knows how to do this around some way I don't know how to do. Let me know. But that's why it says device missing here, because it doesn't see the iPad because it's not on right now. And then Logic Pro and QuickTime and all those things, Safari, whatever. The only two I have right now on are Safari, what I play in Safari, and what I play in the Finder. And those all go to another channel in Ecamm as an audio device. Okay, so this is a very confused thing, and the point of this conversation was to show you how we do this. It doesn't necessarily mean that's how you should do it. So if you take all this stuff and throw it out for a second, and just dumb it down to what is necessary. You need a microphone, you need an audio interface, you need some means of capturing video, and it can be a USB video card, it can be a camera that's going through some kind of an interface, and you need all these things to put it together. And there's a lot of ways to do this, and I think Ecamm is really fabulous. I think it's an incredibly great tool. It allows you the recording, it allows you to there's another thing it does is without any plugins, you do not need to add anything special to stream, which is why I told you earlier that we can stream pretty easily because it's built into Ecamm. It is not built into everything else, so you need plugins for that. And you have to pay, typically you pay for those things. So I don't know. For me, Ecamm solved those problems, but there's other solutions like OBS and a bunch of other things that are on the market. And we're talking about all Macs, but the truth of the matter is OBS runs on PCs, it runs on Linux. There's a lot of different things you can use. And you do not need to use a Mac. It just solved a lot of problems for us in this particular case. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the reason our stuff seems so sophisticated, not to scare people, is that we've been doing recording in general for a very long time, and we've accumulated a ton of knowledge and recording gear and whatever. And I think for a person just getting into it, looking at us, might be overwhelming, but it's just because we had a lot of this gear already, and that's why it seems so over the top. You can get by with a small box interface for $100. You can get a USB microphone from a number of companies for under $100.
Exactly.
And that's all you really need to get started. But I mean, I know people that do it on their phones, or they're just use their laptop microphones and cameras. So it's, again, this the whole point of our, I guess our goal is to show you can do it on a smaller scale. So don't get overwhelmed by seeing what we do. There's a lot of in between setups that'll work just fine for a lot of people out there. That's all.
And there's a lot of much more sophisticated ways. You know, I didn't get into lighting, and I mean, we have all that stuff too. But the topic was, how do we do our show?
Yeah.
And that's what we covered in a very basic way. But it seems incredibly overwhelming because there's so many, we're doing so many things. And there's the fundamental reason why that is because this is a show about studios. And how to do all sorts of things in studios. Because of that, our requirements are that we're going to have to show an iPad from time to time. We're going to have to show a recording board from time to time. We're going to have to show blah, 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 blah. And the only way to get that all in place is by having all of these ways of capturing those devices, not only from our use perspective, but from your view perspective. You have to see that. So as a result, it requires us to do a little more than your average podcast. If your podcast doesn't require any of this, it's almost it's pointless. You don't have to worry about all this stuff. If you're going to do talking head stuff, or you're going to communicate and interview people, it's a very different ballgame. And you don't have to get all hung up on how we did this. It's just more that this is what this topic was, and that's it. So next week we're going to do, Will's going to do his side, which I think is probably much more akin to what an average person might want to do. You know, he's got a smaller space, and a lot of what's being controlled right now is on my end, which is the thing that Ecamm affords us, actually. But he was using OBS up until today, actually. Yeah. He was using OBS to do a lot of this stuff, and maybe there's a way we can show that too, the way OBS works. But I'm recording all this right now, and I can't show OBS because I'm using Ecamm, so it would be a conflict, I'm sure. So that's what's going to happen next week, which brings us to our normal next topic, which is plugins. So why don't you go first, because I'm tired of talking.
Let me give you a little break to catch your breath. I used to have a plugin, I want to say 15 years ago. And let me back up. So my plugin isn't a plugin, and it's a part of a plugin offered by Native Instruments called Contact. It's an instrument, but it comes with a bunch of libraries. But it's an open-ended system where people can make your other instruments, and this is what was used when I had this plugin. It was Contact 1 or 2 back in the day, but it was a Middle Eastern and European, maybe Middle Eastern and African percussion instrument, and I loved it. I used it a lot to kind of make. I think we were talking about this when I was trying to program a drum beat, and you showed me the offbeats. Doesn't mean the timing needs to change. It just gives you some more rhythmic sounds to your plain 1/4 beats. So Middle Eastern stuff has a lot of that, triplets and whatever. I'm not going to get into music theory, but it has a lot of extra notes and timing things that give a lot more rhythm to some of my stuff. And I lost the disc. I had a big binder full of discs, and I lost it. It probably wouldn't be compatible nowadays anyway. But Native Instruments, I just upgraded to 13, complete 13, and Native Instruments includes now what's called the Discovery Series, which there's Africa, Asia, West Africa. There's a few different libraries, but my favorite one right now is the Middle East stuff. So this is what it looks like. It's an ensemble of a few different instruments. So depending on where you play on the keyboard. Can you hear that?
There's multiple instruments, right? It's not just percussion or anything. It's a bunch of instruments.
This preset. There's a Cuban version.
Yeah.
In the Middle East. So in here you have
Oh.
a percussion section, a string section, and an ensemble section.
Yeah.
And again, depending on where on the keys, these libraries are pretty big. Let's see. So they sound fantastic. So you can't hear it, but it's now just hand percussive stuff and really cool sound. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to have this back. This is one of the
So are you
coolest things.
saying that this was that it was included in a
No,
prior
no, no.
vert?
Somebody sold the library,
Oh,
percussive library, but it was used. You use Contact to play it.
got it.
So it was an add-on from another company
Sure.
to Contact. Now it's included. Native
Oh,
Instruments included it amongst the. Like I went from 11 to 13, and I had half of this stuff. So I'm very glad I upgraded. I wish I would have done it sooner, but I just blown away at the sound quality of the Middle Eastern stuff, and
yeah.
I'm
No,
just glad
it's
to have it back. There's a
really
Cuban
cool.
section, Cuban percussive stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Indian.
Indian, yeah.
You know,
Really
there's
neat.
a bunch of different ones. Yeah, so I'm going to be playing a lot with that the
Yeah,
next
and I have a
few
question
days.
for you about that actually.
Hmm.
One of the things, let me get you back. One of the things I find interesting is that when I'm writing, and I'm about to do a bunch of writing, so this is why I'm personally interested in this stuff. By the time I get to the recording side of things, which is where what you're showing right now,
Hmm.
the writing is almost done. So it's an add-on thing, as opposed to considering it while I'm coming up with the ideas, while I'm doing the writing phase. And
Hmm.
I just wonder if I'm not missing a whole bunch of stuff by not doing it later. Meaning go be influenced by sounds and blah blah blah. I used to do that. I used to be influenced by sounds and oh maybe I should do that. Oh that'd be great. Now I kind of put things together from a structure perspective and not even worry about what it sounds like musically. And then I bring it into the system and then I start really doing. That's when I start using all the different tools that are available. And I'm just wondering if I'm missing something by doing it that way.
It's funny you say that because I used to start with something more rhythmic, whether it was a melody or an arpeggio or a loop, and then
Mm-hmm.
work in reverse, then build around that, and it would help create different feelings. But then I realized, no, I think let me start structure, like you said, basic beat, then fill it in with some stuff, and then add the percussive stuff later. So I think I might go back to that with all this stuff that I have here now. I think I
Yeah.
might go back to that way because I think a lot of my stuff is just. I haven't made a song recently that, or even just a basic loop pattern, whatever. I haven't made anything that it was really like. I'm proud of that. It's been years, you know. I have to go back to some of my older stuff from
That to
5 and 10
motivate you.
years
That,
ago. Be like,
yep.
wow, that was fun, and I did a
Yep.
lot. I spent a lot of
Yep.
time on that, and I just I lost some. I changed something, and it just the creative process is different. So I think I'm going to go back to the way I
That's
used to do
great.
things.
Yeah, and
Find
I think
something
that's
sound or
that.
rhythm that's inspirational, and then work off of that.
Yeah, and that's a great lesson. I think. I mean, sometimes different things motivate you to be creative, and
Yeah.
you have to remember all the tools you have, and then say, okay, where does this tool fit? Oh, maybe I should go and look at that because I don't always
Hmm.
do that. I mean, it's I think it's a common flaw. I don't think it's just us. So anyway, that's cool. The my plugin is it's almost boring, but I have to tell you because this is why I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up because I use it. I would say almost every time I do a track, almost every time I do a track, and that is which is it seems like a contradiction because as you saw earlier, I have an SSL, several SSL input modules, but I use Waves SSL either E channel or G channel channel strips in my recordings because they're just great. They're just, I don't even know any other way to describe it. They are just absolutely phenomenal. So all I'm telling you is that if I were they're very inexpensive to buy. They're like I think $39 or something. I mean I don't think they're very expensive, but I literally I don't know how heavy they are in terms of how much how many resources they use. But I will tell you this: I put them on every channel that I use, including individual drum parts, like a snare drum, a bass drum, blah blah blah. And they come up. They have these incredible presets that you can work off of that are just phenomenal. They just make your tracks sound great. And there's a compressor in it, and then there's all sorts of stuff in there. EQ, and it's all taken from the SSL channel. But now the reason there's an E channel and a G channel is because They're basically two different strips that were done at two different times by SSL. And so Waves includes both of them. Why are they different? Frankly, I didn't even know they were different until I started playing with them a little bit. And it has something. They're basically sonically different from each other. The EQ is a little different. Some people like things for stadium rock type things. Some people like for more hip hop. And it's different. I think it depends. And there's a really good article on Waves.com if you're looking to buy this thing that describes what the differences are. And I have them because they're part of a package I have. And here's basically, so there you go. The E channel is $39 and the G channel is $39.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, and they're really just, by the way, this whole 84% thing, I've never seen it cheaper, so I don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, they're always on sale. Waves is always on sale. But anyway, if you see a Waves thing for $249 for one plug-in, don't buy it. Because in a day, it won't be that. That's all I can tell you. I'm probably going to get sued by Waves. But anyway, so this thing, I'm telling you, this thing is just phenomenal. It's great for drum parts. It's great for vocals. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff. And that is my plugin, and I absolutely swear by it. I just love them. I love the way it sounds. And by the way, they make other ones that are really great, like some of the old Neve stuff and some stuff from Abbey Roads. And so they have other channel strips that are really phenomenal. I just happen to, every time maybe it's just what I hear, but every time I go and use a different channel strip or none, it's like I'm missing something if I don't have an SSL channel strip in there as a plugin. And I'm sure this is something that is a psychological choice that I've now become embedded, and maybe I have to get away from it. But I just think they sound phenomenal. I really do.
Yeah, I use them a lot too.
Do you? Yeah, I think they're great.
SSL is one of my go-to plugins.
Yep.
In mixing, yeah.
Cool. So that's my plugin. Which brings us to, what is your choice for things you would love to own but just wouldn't because you can't afford it?
Fender has just released the 75th anniversary commemorative Strat in a 2-color bourbon burst. It's ash body, right? Let me see. Ash. It's ash. Yeah, if you want, I have it on my screen. So it's ash body. Not a particularly pretty piece of wood, but
I like it actually.
With the maple neck.
Yeah.
With the brown bourbon burst and the gold hardware, the vintage, their 60s single coil Strat style pickups. It just looks beautiful. I'm a big fan of Strat style guitars. I don't have a Fender Strat right now, but I have a Strat style Hondo that I really like, and I can't seem to find anything that plays quite as nice as this. But this has a similar neck shape and radius, so I think this is definitely something I want to try out. I'm going to see if I can find it at CME in the next couple weeks, the local guitar store here.
So it's called the 75th anniversary Fender
commemorative
Strat
series.
Okay. Okay.
So, but I just like the way this looks all together with the gold hardware, the burst, the maple neck. It just, to me, this is looks beautiful. But also, I want to try it out and see if it fits well. But yeah, this is a great looking guitar. It's not in the world of guitars. It's not the most expensive, but $2,000 for a Strat is a little bit more than your going rate for American.
No,
standard.
but that's probably a custom shop.
$1,400.
Yeah.
It's not quite a custom shop, but it's up there. It's definitely a nicer put together guitar.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great looking guitar. So
I think so.
That's what I'd like to buy, but I don't have the money for it.
I can't. Yeah, I can't play Strats. I love them. I think they sound fabulous. My favorite guitar players are all Strat players, most of them. I can't play. I can't. I just don't. I can't. My fingers don't.
I'm the opposite of you. Mine don't wrap around the big chunky neck, so I don't like the Gibsons.
Oh, I don't either. But that's why I use PRS's thin necks. Yeah, yeah. I can't use chunky necks. I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, mine. Here's mine. As you know, I love monitors, and I really have come pretty down on what I'm using. I'm very happy with them. I don't think I would change them unless I had an outrageous amount of money. But I've always felt this need to add a mid or far field monitor system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have a clue why. Because really, I have no studio. Well, I mean, I don't. I do, but I don't. And the reason for those things is to really blast out, but in high quality format, right? I mean, I could do it with my PA, but it's so artificial, it's not real.
Yeah.
So to me, the idea of a far field or a mid-field monitor system just, oh man, I just think it would be the best. So to that end, I have chosen make two choices. Here is my first one. ATC monitors are phenomenal. They're like amazing. This is reasonable. It's $23,000 a pair. They're just, oh, God. I heard a set of these. They're just insanity, just incredible. So I would love to have them. You know, if you ever go to a really big studio, you see these things are built into the ceilings and into the walls and stuff like that. But I thought these would be really cool. The second choice I have here is must be so much money that they didn't even put the price on it. But this is that's bad when they say contact us for more information.
Yeah, call for price.
They call for price. This is a Genelec 1235A studio monitor. I happen to know these are about, I don't know, I think they're like 20-something a piece or something, and they have a whole system. I don't even know what this is. If this is I'm not even sure what that
external
box
power
is.
source.
It could be.
Power amp, specific power amp for you.
Boy, it does look great, doesn't it?
That is, yeah, that looks like a PA system in like a concert venue, like
It does. It's so beautiful.
line array stack.
Yeah, I went to the Genelec site, and they have these things, and then there's actually, believe it or not, accompanying subs. Can you just? I mean, it's got to be $80,000 worth of speakers, but oh my God, what a fabulous thing! I would love to have that, but there's no way in heck that I ever will. So until then, I'm just dreaming. It's a faint dream in my memory. I will never accomplish. It's fine. And that is my equipment that I would love to own, but there's no way I'm going to. And I think that leads us to the end of this. So next week we will do another podcast that basically it talks about Will's end of the business here, so to speak. And hopefully it'll be a little less confusing, because I think I made it confusing.
No, I don't think so.
And then we'll be done with bragging about how we figured this all out. In some ways, it really is kind of bragging, because let's be honest, it took a while to get this all to do what it was supposed to do. It's really easy, there's a million YouTube channels to tell you how to do all this stuff, right? And then you go out and do it, and nothing works this way, it doesn't do this, and it doesn't do that, and oh my God. And this just works for us, but oh my gosh, this was not a 5-day thing. It just took us a while, because we're doing this all part-time. I mean, if this is all we did, it probably would have been a much quicker.
Yeah, but we do this in our spare time.
Yeah, so anyway, we love that people listen. We love that people watch, and please keep doing that. And I think that's it for this week, Bill.
Right,
so until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.